outside of the groove and made sure I had the same measurement here, which is 3 3/4 inches, as here, 3 3/4 inches. So the manufacturer said to drill a hole 3 5/8 inches. Now that's a little bit smaller than 3 3/4. The reason you want to be a little smaller, it's about 3% smaller, and that's so when you install the grommet, the rubber grommet inside your tank, it'll seal real tightly up against the outer edges of the cut hole in your tank. So I don't have a 3 5/8 inch diameter hole saw, so I'm gonna have to go get one of those today. And let's walk over here and take a look at the tank. So this is one of the tanks. It's a 16-gallon tank. I don't know if this one will be for the black water or the gray water. It really doesn't matter. They're identical. And what I'll need to do is, well, first, when you're doing this, you got to find the ideal spot for your tank. At first, I wanted my tanks to run perpendicular to the length of the van, so I could put them side by side and then hook the two discharges together. That way it'd be easy after I dump my black water tank to flush it out with my gray water before I dump the gray water tank, which is kind of standard practice. But there's no place for me to do that under the van without having the tanks hang much lower than any other component of the van. They literally would have been about 5 or 6 inches off the roadway, the bottom of the tanks, which I didn't want that. I didn't want my tanks to be the lowest component of the van. So I picked a little side pockets on each side of the van, got up under there, and by hand I pushed them up to where I needed them to be, made sure they fit both sides, and they did. So that's how I chose my location for my black and gray water tank. Today, what I need to do is hang both my tanks and actually secure them, locate them just where I want them, secure them just like they were being finally installed. And then what I'll do is I'll hang a plumb bob centered on the cut hole in the van floor, and wherever the plumb bob touches the tank, that'll be the center of my 3 5/8 inch drilled hole that the grommet will fit in. You see the grommet will go in like this, and I know that because it's got a little shelf here that will stop the PVC pipe, the 3-inch PVC pipe, once you slide it down in there, so it doesn't actually go into the tank. It only comes down about flush with the bottom of the grommet. So you drill the hole. Since this is flexible, you'll get this down in there. It'll seat. I will try to get a flashlight and see if I can look up in here and make sure it is seated. I don't think I can get my hand up in there. No, I can't. I may have to borrow a smaller hand to feel and make sure that's seated all the way around, which is very important. You do need to do that. How I'm going to hang this tank, let me see if I can set this camera so I can show you. Let's see. So I'm using this square 1-inch square tubing with pre-drilled holes, in it. These are 1/4 by 20 zinc plated all thread rods. This is what the tank will set on. So there's going to be 3 of these sets that are under here like this. Go underneath. Three sets of these. And what I'll do is this rubber, I'll put a piece of rubber on top of this, so the tank will actually sit on the rubber. So if there's any movement in the tank going down the road, it won't rub a hole into the tank. The support brace won't rub a hole into the tank. I'll also put some of these rubber strips on the top of the tank where it rests against a structural member, and there's 3 structural members that it rests on, so I will have 3 of these strips up here, and for the same reason, so the structural member won't wear a hole in the tank as you're going down the road. Not the only hole I have to drill though. It's recommended I also have to drill a hole somewhere in this tank for a 1.5 inch PVC pipe as a vent. You want to have a vent in your black and gray water tank. They'll most likely run to the roof, especially the black water tank. I will definitely run that vent pipe up to the top, because black water tank of course can get very smelly. You want that vent pipe to vent out at the highest elevation possible on your van. So if you're sitting around a picnic table at a campground or something, you're less likely to smell it if it's being ventilated top of the van. So with these black and gray water tanks, there's a lot of you'll install them basically 3 times. Once to make sure they fit, once to get them, find the center of your grommets for your inlet and your vent pipe, and then of course you have to take them off again so you can drill the holes, install your grommets, and then the 3rd time you put the tanks, you install the tanks, secure them down, then you're pretty much done. So long process, a lot of double checks. Forget measure twice, cut once. Measure 5 times at least before you cut, because you only got one chance at getting this right. There's a lot of things like that. When you're cutting holes in the van, you only got one shot at it. You don't want to be patching a hole that you drilled too large and have to start all over. Show you how it goes when I'm done.